Assalamualaikum. My name is Nur Aidina Idaya binti Muhammad Azrai. My number matric is 278281 and I'm from group number 2. Today, I will introduce our topic that is Musharakah Mutanaqisah versus BBA home financing. Home financing is one of the specialized systems implemented by Islamic banking. This is because conventional banking charge interest in home financing, while Islamic banking is free from interest, usury, and riba. Among the financing that is often used by banks to purchase their customers' houses is Bithaman Ajil, which is known as BBA, which is sold on a deferred payment compared to Musharakah Mutanaqisah or MM, that is diminishing partnership. This is because BBA product is made in accordance with a predetermined contract. According to BNM, MM defines it as a form of partnership when one of the partners promises to buy the ownership of the other partner gradually until he buys the entire share of the property, while BBA is a sale with repayment of debt as well as facilities provided by the bank to customers to own a home throughout the financing period at a capital price and a profit determined by the financier, that is the bank. BBA home financing is a commercial transaction. However, the concept of BBA practice in Malaysia has been mixed with other elements, that is selling something that does not exist, where this method is prohibited in Islamic banking.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. My name is Nurul Aimiti Razali, 278136. I will continue our presentation in 2.0 modus operandi used by Musharakah Mutanaqisah. As soon as customer identifies which house they are going to buy, they need to approach the bank first for financing under Musharakah Mutanaqisah agreement. Customer and the bank will jointly purchase the house based on loan-to-value ratio. The loan-to-value ratio usually 80%, as bank only cover 80% of the house value and the rest of 20% are going to be paid by the customer as shown in the figure. The customer will be leased the bank's portion of the ownership based on ijarah. In order to get full ownership of the house, the customer should compensate the bank back by paying a monthly installment in the form of rent payment. This will increase the share of customers and decrease the share of the bank. After all payment has been made and reached at the end of the contract period, the customer will have full ownership of the house. Okay, next is modus operandi used by Bithaman Ajil, which is BBA. Customer who agreed to buy house and apply BBA financing to the bank. Then, bank will purchase the house. Banks will determine the markup on selling price based on yearly rate of profit from the transaction. In order to own the house, customer should buy the bank in installment. The bank will sell the house to customers at the principal price plus profit margin that is fixed by the bank. With BBA financing, customers who can afford to pay cash in advance will be able to buy a home by paying some deposit and installments afterwards. After all payments have been made, customers will have sole ownership of the house. 3.0 Current issue and challenges. In Budget 2022, government had given an 2 billion ringgit guarantee under the Housing Credit Guarantee Scheme to help with loan approvals for B40 to get their own house. However, it still does not work, as most of the B40 are among gig workers and micro-entrepreneurs that have unstable income. Because of COVID-19, most of M40 also affected and have fallen to B40, so the number of B40 keep increasing. These people with unstable income might have difficulties to create documentation that is required for applying for loans and purchasing assets such as houses, cars, and so on. Thus, the problem of home ownership in the country will continue to worsen. According to Associate Professor Dr. Ahmed Razman Abdul Latif, an economic analyst of Putra Business School, prefer to use Musharakah Mutanaqisah financing as it does not involve interest charges. This strategy allows customers to pay a specific amount upfront and then pay the rent in installment until the end of contract period. However, there are some challenges in implementing Musharakah Mutanaqisah financing. First is ownership issue. Some banks will register the house on the bank's name. With the current regulation, make it difficult to to register a property jointly for the bank and the partner. This makes the bank as the owner of the property until the end of the contract period. The second challenge is changes in rental rate. Musyarakah Mutanaqisah rental rates are based on overnight policy of Bank Negara Malaysia and might involve GORA due to the fluctuation of the interest rate every day. So, in this case, the rental rate might increase or decrease every day, and this will burden customers to pay the rent of the house. The third challenge is major repairs and maintenance. In Musyarakah Mutanaqisah financing, the bank and customers are responsible on the repairs and maintenance of the house. But in this situation, most customers still do not acknowledge and think that it must be done alone. Thank you.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. My name is Fina Sabara binti Sirat, matric number 288686, and I will be talking about adapting the Islamic concept of contract to solve the issue in Islamic banking. The issue regarding Musharakah Mutanaqisah is ownership. Due to the current regulation of land registration, only the actual owner of the property could be registered under the property, although it is supposedly Musharakah in Musharakah Mutanaqisah. So, one of the Islamic legal maxim could be used to solve this issue, which is maxim of certainty and doubt. Al-yakin la yazul bi-shak. Certainty could not be overruled by doubt. So, the construction parties, which is the customer and the bank, should clearly state in the contract regarding the ownership of the property, and the contract should clarify on how many percentage does both parties own during the initial possession of the property and how the ownership could be transferred over the stated terms. The bank buys the client home with its own capital and a deposit by the client. Even though the property is registered under the name of the bank, it is not prohibited because the customer is confident towards the contract, and as long as it is beneficial and brings no harm to both of the bank and the customer. At the end of the payment, the bank could transfer its ownership to the customer as long as the customer pays its rent and settle its debt in time according to the contract.
According to the views of the scholars, there are different opinions about MM and BBA, whether it is valid or not to be used. This happens when MM Siddiqui described BBA as a single transaction for usury, while MM is based on a rental. However, MM and BBA contracts are permissible in Islamic law, but BBA contracts are not encouraged to be used by Islamic banking. A musyarakah contract that benefits the partner is allowed to be carried out because the contract does not exceed the prescribed Sharia limits and does not involve benefits that burden both parties. The musyarakah discussed by the scholars is related to capital management, profit partnerships, loss sharing and joint ventures. Capital provided by all partners involved. Most Muslim scholars give an opinion that the capital given should be in the form of cash, such as money. This is because the contract in the musyarakah can only be done in the form of money but not in the goods. However, according to the four mazhab, this view is accepted differently. Imam Malik argued that liquidity is not the only tool to perform convenience in musyarakah because goods also can be done. Therefore, the partner cannot only contribute in the form of capital, but they can also give in the form of good and should be determined according to the market price. This view of Imam Malik is also agreed by Imam Hanbali. However, Imam Hanafi and Imam Hanbali believe that donations should not be given in the form of money or goods. Next is profit sharing rights. There is a difference among the scholars whether the partners should divide or not profit according to the ratio depending on the capital invested. In the view of Imam Malik and Imam Shafi'i, the partners must divide their profits according to the ratio to meet the legal conditions of musyarakah. This is because each partner is entitled to their respective profits depending on the value of the capital that has been invested. On the other hand, in Imam Hanbali views, the distribution of profits can be done according to the agreement of both parties. Therefore, they should share profits and losses fairly. Sales that use the BBA concept involving the taking of profits through the business of buying and selling property with deferred payment is allowed. This is because BBA is a type of sale and purchase transaction of an asset with deferred payment that is slightly different from regular sale and purchase. The difference between deferred sale and regular sale is that the fee charged for deferred sale is higher than the normal purchase, and the deferred sale price increases according to the deferral time desired by the customer. For example, the Prophet ﷺ once bought food from a Jew with deferred payment, then he mortgaged it with his iron shirt. Besides that, in the ijma of the scholars have allowed the sale and purchase of goods with deferred payment, that is, paying a slightly later than the date of purchase. Imam Shafi'i also explained that a seller is allowed to sell goods with deferred payment and then buy the goods back from the buyer at a lower price than the actual selling price. Then, for Imam Hanafi, if the seller who sells an item at a cash price and then deferring the payment within the prescribed period, then the law is valid and becomes a debt.
Next, I will be talking about future recommendation or several suggested ways in order to improve Islamic banking products. One of the recommendations is amendment to existing law to improve the current legal framework for the operation of Musharakah Mutanaqisah home financing that appears to be unfamiliar to equity-based financing. Since equity financing is important for the growth of Islamic finance, there is the need for constant refinement and adjustment to the legal framework. It is compulsory to initiate different legal and regulative structures to eliminate the problem and make supportive law and policies for the operation of Islamic finance. Besides that, a benchmark to determine rental rate in Musharakah Mutanaqisah home financing other than interest rate should be introduced to avoid Islamic bank using interest rate as the rental rate, which creates misunderstanding to the public. It is hoped that the pricing of home financing would be capable to show the true value of the property while being honest, durable, and adaptable to the economic exposure. Furthermore, strict screening of developers should be implemented by the bank. It is because both completed house and housing projects under construction is offered to Musharakah Mutanaqisah home financing. The risk taken for housing projects under construction is higher. Therefore, banks should carefully choose the developer before carrying out the contract to customer to avoid abandonment of the house. Lastly, Islamic finance education should be introduced to school to give understanding among students to know the benefits and regulation of the Islamic finance. To do that, Bank Negara Malaysia could cooperate with Ministry of Education to introduce this subject so the students could become qualified individuals and they could promote it on a higher level.
In conclusion, and BBA each have advantages and disadvantages. Also, it can be used as a guide to choose which is best for home financing. Besides that, we will also become more aware of the concept of financial products once we have identified the purpose of and BBA being introduced, as well as the characteristics features that distinguish the two. With this, we can make wise choices so as not to feel burdened in the future. For example, that is not charged interest in home financing causes people not to have to pay much. That's all from us. Thank you.